She's next to Mark Levin.
Right. On the bunker, right? What did he say? He's in the bunker.
So a good Erev Shabbos. We'd like to greet our tzaddik in Eretz Yisrael, Kenny Miller, who brought underwear and tourniquets schlepped from America. Now it's 4:15 Eretz Yisrael. And to my dear brother-in-law, who indulged in other things which have nothing to do with Israel, just simply being a Philly fan and going to Arizona. But we appreciate that as well, right? I would never be so loyal. Or it's probably that you probably had a vacation in Philly and in Arizona. It just happens to be that the Diamondbacks upset the Dodgers, which was unexpected. Okay, anyway, good Erev Shabbos, and we're up to Daf Samech Zayin Amid Beis. We're in the middle of a sugya. We had a Mishnah, really a seminal Mishnah, a really very interesting Mishnah. The Mishnah discusses the guidelines of yichus based upon marriage, and it's going to segue into the next parak, which is called Asura Yuchsin. So the first case was a simple case where we said that if a person gets married and there's no avera, right? The person gets married and there's no avera, you go after the zachar. You go after what? You go after the male. You go after the male. If, however, the marriage is one that Hashem doesn't want, but it is a marriage, then you're going to go after the pagam. So Alman Kohen Gadol, Gurush V'chutz Kohen Hedyet, according to Rabbi Yossi, if a ger marries a mamzeres. So in those cases, since it's what the Kidushin does work, we'll go after, however, the blemish of the relations. We'll go after the blemish of the relations. Okay, Moshe, I just started saying share, okay? About 45 minutes. Okay, okay, let me give you bracha now. Okay. It's called impeccable timing. Anyway, so the second one was Kidushin's tofes, but it's ba'avera, and then you go after the pagam. So, for example, a gerusha marries a kohen, the child will be a chalal. We don't go after the kohen, the male. We go after the female, and it's a gerusha. The third case was where there is marriage, but not to you, which is any erva. In other words, anyone that you can anyone else can marry her, but you can't because of relationships of either blood relationships or non-blood relationships to sisters, right? Then the child will be a mamzer. In other words, we yesh mamzeres mechayve krisis. Chayve krisis or Mrs. Bezdin. In that scenario, right? In that scenario, the child, there is no Kidushin, and the child, there's no Kidushin to you, but to be in another place. Now, what about a child that there's no Kidushin, period? So, for example, if a man marries a nachris, a guy, or marries a shivcha, in that case, there is no Kidushin. Then the child will go kimosa. Then the child will be like her. The child, a Jewish man marries a guy, then the child is a guy. If a Jewish man would marry a shivcha, the child will be a shivcha. So that's the four guidelines. So we're trying to figure out where's this idea of Kedushin is not typhus by chayve krisus. So we brought achas ish. First we thought it's from the pasuk of we said that could be speaking about achasisha. So then we brought that we brought from achas isha, right? And then we said achas isha, and we want to learn that from achas isha. Just like achas isha, your wife's sister is also to you, it's chayiv koris. So too, and kedushin is not tofes because it says lo yisikach by achas isha, do not take, meaning. Tikach is lashon kuchin kedushin. So too, anything that's similar to that. However, we had a problem with that. What was the problem? The problem was eshes ish and eshes ach. So in other words, achas isha is asa to you. Eshes ach is not always asa to you. Yibam, b'makom yibam, your wife's eshes ach, the wife of your brother, we permitted to you. Eshes is asa as long as she's married. If there's gerushin, she won't be married. So how do you know kedushin is not typhus by there? So because of that question, the Gemara threw it back into one big chalent. At the end of the Pasha Arayos, it says, Kikol ayashem mikola ta'evis ha'ela. Anyone does any of these ta'evis v'nichrasu, and therefore everything that's in the Parsha we make a hekesh. Good. So that's where we're holding. Now, if you look in Parshas Achrimos, in that Parsha, there's a Parsha of Nida. So the Gemara now has a great question. Ihachi, if so, Chesamid Aleph. Ihachi, fellas, if our source for all that Chayve Kidushin is not Tofes, right, is a hekesh that anything that's in their Parsha is similar to Achas Isha, Afilu Nida Nami, a person, if it's Mekadesh Nida, if a person is Mekadesh Nida, it should not work. Because again, Nida is part of the Hekesh. Nida is in that Parsha. This is a very famous question, fellas. How do you know there's no Mamzeris by Nida? If a man lives with his wife when she's a Nida, what's the din? Chayav Kares, correct? Yeah, correct. It's Chayav Kares. The Nida is a Chayav Kares. So now, a child born from that union from a Chayav Kares is usually a Mamza, correct? The whole reason it's not a Mamza is because, what's our rule of thumb? When Kiddushin's not Taifis, then the child's a Mamza. When Kiddushin is Taifis, then the child is not a Mamza. When Kiddushin is not Taifis, the child is a Mamza. When Kiddushin is not Tofes, the child's not a Mamza. So once I prove that Kiddushin is Taifis by a Nida, I know the child what is not a Mamza. This has significant meanings in halacha. Many people marry Bali Tshuva. Many people have some of my own children marry Bali Tshuva. And l'chora, the mother did not go to the mikvah, so there'll be a question on the yichus of the child, if not for the limud guys. And there was the implications is tremendous. So says the Gemara Yehachi, if you're going to learn from this hekesh, and Nida is part of the chalent there of different arroyas that are also the parsha of arroyas at the end of Achremos. So Nida Nami, if you Mekadesh and Nida, it shouldn't be work. And now, if it doesn't work, what's the tailad of that? Then a child born from that marriage will be a mamza. Alma Rabbi, on that Rabbi says, Hakol moedim b'boala nida ve'ala saita havlad that mat she'en havlad mamza. Everyone's moida that if you boil on a nida or like Rabbi Akiva on a saita, who holds Kidushin is not, again, Rabbi Akiva is the most machmir. Kidushin is not taifus by Chavei Lavim. If a woman is a saita and a man can't live with her, what happens if he does? What happens if the husband lives with her? Even Rabbi Akiva would be made that the child is not a mamzer, despite the fact that it's a lav, it would not be a mamzer. I'm throwing a lot of information at you. The child would not be a mamzer. Now, how do you know that? So Amakra, it says Vatiya nidasa alav. You know what Vatiya means? Afil b'shas nidasa, even when she's a nida, tehei bo havaya. So the pasuk says, Imshachav yishkav ish isa usehi nidasa alav v'tamei shivas yomim. Mazlash sehi, that if you're with us, sehi, there is like this lashon of hoisa, there's havaya, there's Kidushin. So we know now Memela the rule of thumb. Since there's Kidushin, Memela the child is kosher. Since there's Kidushin, the child what will be kosher. Michti. Okay, so now guys, we have. Okay, let's set it up. I have the parsha of Achas Isha. Again, that's a chi of karis. A man can't marry his wife's sister. That's a chi of karis. And I'm learning out from there. Just like that's a chi of karis. And that's in the parsha of Aroyas. It's all together to teach me all of Aroyas Kidushin is not typhus. In the same parsha, I have a parsha of Nida. And what does Nida say? Kidushin is typhus by Chayve Krisis. Fred the Gemara, why did I opt to go in the direction of Achas Isha and Aser everything? I could have gone in the direction of Nida and matted it, right? In other words, what forced me in that direction? Great kasha. Fred Gemara kasha. Nichti. Ika la kusha l'nida. We can be makish it to Nida and tell me that that Kedushin does work, like a Nida. The Ika la kusha l'achas isha to your wife's sister, that it doesn't work. My chaz is the makeshes l'hu l'achas isha. Why do I go ahead and take the whole parsha and make a hekesh to achas isha? Aksha l'nida. Go ahead and make the hekesh to Nida and say that Kedushin would be typhus. And for the Gemara, kula v'chumra. Given my drudas, if I have a kula or a chumra, l'chumra makshinon. I'm going to go ahead and make the hekesh to be machmir. Says Rashi, l'chumra lasais havlad mamzer. Shamamzeris taluyim b'kedushin. Because as we just said, mamzeris is dependent upon the chalos of kedushin. The chol mi she'ein lo of kedushin have vlad mamzer. Anyone that don't have kedushin, the vlad is the mamzer. That's why we were screaming at Rabbi Akiva, correct? That who was making mamzerim and Klal Yisrael, because since kedushin is not toivus by chavei lavim, with the exception of Amon l'kohen gadol. We're going to see that in a second. Ma eshes av like tafsi bokid. Okay, that's Ma eshes av like tafsi bokidushin vavlad mamzer av kol shein love kedushin avlad mamzer. That's the source. Okay, so now. So our source, guys, what is a hekish? Is a hekish in the whole parsha of Aroyos to achas isha. Now there's another. So that's how you know that kedushin is not toifus by chayve krisos. In other words, this is a universal din, and this is a yavamis. We did all this in yavamis. We may not remember exactly the limudim, but we know that the parsha of Aroyos was discussed at length in Aroyos. In yavamis and weiter. Says Gemara. Avi's sitting there saying, I just can't believe I did Masechet Yevamos. I can't believe I did it. He's so happy. I know. That's the one that stopped you from finishing shots. That's the make or break. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, Rav Acha bar Yaakov is of the opinion, Asya, you're going to learn that other Aroyos, Mikal v'choimim mi Yevama. So he has a whole other source that all the Aroyos is not from the Hekesh fellas in Pashas Perikut Ches and Vayikra. It's from a Kal v'choimim from Yavamis. Now, guys, here's a big rule of thumb. Even though we hold Kidushin is toifis by Chavei Lavim, there's a Yotzim in Aklal. Yavama l'shuk. If a man dies and he leaves over a wife, right? He leaves over a wife, and another person comes along and is Mekadesh his widow, the Kedusha doesn't work. Now, Yavama l'shuk, the Isser of being together with her is a lav. Like shouldn't be to another person. It's a lav. Yet Kedushin is not toifus. And we can understand why. In Svara, this woman has a zika that's connecting her to her brother-in-law. So she's a shtickle married to her brother-in-law. Once a person has a shtickle relations with another man, she can't marry two people. By the other aroyos, by chayve lavim, all those cases they can marry, right? She's not stuck connected to a man. Memela kedushin could be typhus. Masha'enkin universally almana ashes your brother-in-law yivama kedushin would not be typhus. So now I'm going to learn out from there to all our royas that kedushin is not typhus. Kal v'chaymer mi yivama uma yivama shehi belav. A yavama is a simple lav, right? Like see esim mishal like tafsi ba kedushin. Kedushin is not typhus. Again, as it says, like siel eshes hameis hachutza, like that means that she should not lo havaya to nizar. Chayve misas chayve krisos like kol shekain. Madach alav. Kedushin is not typhus by yavam l'shuk. Chayve krisos and misas bezdin, which are certainly more severe. Einay din is not a kal v'chaymer, right? Einay din is not a kal v'chaymer that kedushin should not be typhus. In other words, this is a very, very simplistic svara. You don't need a sophisticated hekish, make a whole parsha together to one for a limud achasisha where it says leisikach, right? We go ahead, a simple kal v'chaymer, madach yivama. It's a lav. Kedushin doesn't work. Krisus, I mean, says bezdin, kol shekain shouldn't work. Ihachi fegumara shar chave lavin nami. Okay, guess what? Once you have a source for kedushin not being toys with chave lavin, let's extend it by all chayve lavin, just like Yivam and the commandment sinu, not a kal v'chaymer, because it's not Yivam is not more chomer than the lavin. They're both chayve lavin. So let's using a mehmet sinu. Madach Yivam, not madach. A Yivama is a chayve lavin, and kedushin is not toifus. So too all other chayve lavim kedushin should be toifus. Amrav Papa chayve lavin behedya kasiv. Chayve lavin we have a pasuk that says kedushin is toifus. Okay, what does the Torah say? Again, this is a very, very Yisodistic Gemara, guys. Very Yisodistic. It says, Kisiyen ish shtei nashim, a man has two wives. Ha'achas ahuva, va'achas senua. One is beloved, and one is hated. V'yoldu leibonim, ha'ahuva v'asnua, ma'hoya ben ha'bechor l'sniya. You should give the bechor what? Okay, now, this is a classic mistake that we could make if we don't think for a second. Meaning, if a man has two wives, and one he hates, and one he likes, make sure to give the bechorah to the one he hates. When it comes to halacha, does HaKadosh Baruch Hu take into account what this person's feelings are? It's halacha. In other words, whoever the firstborn is, you got two, you give it to. Why are we taking into account the man's feelings? It makes no sense. So says the Gemara, the Torah She'al Peh, you're right. It doesn't mean the man's feelings. It means Hashem's feelings. If it's a marriage that Hashem condones, that's a ha'uva. If it's a marriage that a man doesn't condone, that's a senua. That's a marriage. In other words, Hashem tells you he doesn't want a kohen gadol marry an almana. That's a marriage of a snua. He doesn't want a kohen hedjin marry a gerusha, a chalutza. That's a snua. He doesn't want a man to marry a mamza, that mazeris. That's a snua. That's what it means. So now memela very geshmak. Amra Papa, you want to say from Yavama that chayvei lavim should Kidushin not be toifis similar to Yavama. You can't say that. You know why? Because it says kisien el ish shtei nashim ha'achas ahuva ha'achas snua v'chiyesh snua l'fnei ha'makam v'ahuva l'fnei ha'makam. When it comes to Kadosh Baruch Hu, what are you taking into account his feelings? Of course not. Ella, what does it mean? Ahuva means ahuva b'nisueha. In the marriage, Hashem loves it. Snua b'nisueha. He has disdain for this marriage because it's an aveira, right? The kam rachmana. Kisiyena. What does that mean? Again, by now, the hoisa sehi, it's a lashon of havaya. So you see that what? A man who has a marriage to a snua, there's havaya. A raya that yesh kidushin be chayvei lavim. So therefore, you can't learn from Yavama. Again, very, very important pasuk. How to touch the pasuk literally, right? So kisiyena, when a man will be married, one that's ahuva and one that's snua, and what's the limud? The snua is chayvei lavim, and nonetheless kisiyena, there's havaya. Therefore, you can't learn from Yavama that just like Yavama Kidushin is not typhus, so too will chayvei lavim. No, chayvei lavim it is typhus.
Could the Gemara have given the answer that we gave, that there's a chiluk of Zika that doesn't allow Kidushin?
I'm telling you the svara. That's a svara. That's not. It's a pasuk. You need a pasuk to tell you that. I told you in Svara it makes sense. Now, Ula Rabbi Akiva the Amar, Ein Kidushin Taisim B'chayvei Lavim, Kisiyena B'may Mukma. Another way, okay, 1 second. Okay, now we divert. We know the famous sheet of Rabbi Akiva that Mikol Yasa Rabbi Akiva Mamzeirim, because he holds Kidushin Wad is not Taifis. 1 second. You just told me a pasuk by Chayvei Lavim Kidushin is Taifis. What does Rabbi Akiva do with that pasuk? Says the Gemara, my mukmi be'amonel kohen gadol ukrab semoy. The Tanya Rabbi Semoy Yomer, Rabbi Semoy is of the opinion minakol hoyer Rabbi Akiva oisa mamzer. He from all chayvei lavim Rabbi Akiva would make mamzeris chutz mi al monel kohen gadol, with the exception of monel kohen gadol. Shari Amra Torah, the Torah says lo yechalel. It says the Torah says lo yechalu zaroi be'amav ki ani Hashem mekadshoy. Lo yichala. What does that mean? So if a kohen gadol marries an almana, what does it say? Lo yichalel, meaning what's this children going to be? Chalulim oisim. They'll be chalulim. They'll be chalalim. Being oisa mam zeris. They don't make mam zeris. So guys, we have two yotzim in our class. Just to give you a framework. In the parsha of Chayvei Lavim, we hold Kedushin's Toifis with one exception. Yavama. In the parsha of Chayvei Lavim, we hold Kidushin's Taifis with the exception of Yavama. In Rabbi Akiva's world, that Kidushin is not Taifis b'Chayvei Lavim. There's one exception: Amanul Kohen Gadol. So there's most exceptions to the rules, right? Amanul Kohen Gadol, because it says Chalalim. If you do marry an almana, lo yichalel, you're going to make Chalalim. So with the Torah's Megala over there, that union is going to make Chalalim and not Mamzerim. Okay, now. We had a machlokes earlier between Rav Simon and Rav Sheva. Rabbi Simoy is the one who says that what a kohen gadol and makes chalalim. Now, what about this? Rabbi Sheva the Omar Boyev in its nitzvach al Akiva ben Yosef. Let's come and scream on Akiva ben Yosef. Anyone that the bia is also the vlad is a mamzer. Now, there's two possibilities. Does that mean only he's arguing on Reb Simoy vis-a-vis Manul Kohen Gadol, or he's arguing and therefore, but bia of an asay would be okay, or he's making a general rule like Rabbi Akiva, anything is usher, even a mitzri would be usher, right? So, which is an asay. It's very good if he's coming to Lafuki Reb Simoy, who says that what Rabbi Akiva says by Kohen Gadol, right? And he's arguing on that he's saying that what by Kohen Gadol also, but an asay, right? And then Kisiyena, the pasuk Kisena will be going on what? Will be going on a mitzri. In other words, Kisena ish, two wives. One will be a regular wife, and the other one that Hashem has disdain for was not chayve lavim. It will be chayve asay. Fellas, let's listen. We know this already. Third generation mitzri can come in. The inference is, but first and second not. Third can come in, first and second not. It doesn't say don't marry a mitzri. It says marry a third. So we infer, but one and two not. Lava bo machal asay is an asay. So memela, I need Rabbi. If Rabbi Simoy says the pasuk of Siena is going on Amanul Kohen Gadol. In other words, I have a pasuk that says by Chayve Lavim there is Kidushin. What's that pasuk? If a man has two wives, one of them is hated. That hated means there's some type of relationship that Kisiyena that is Kidushin by. Rabbi Simoy says that relationship is Amanul Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Sheva says no, it's not. Good. Now, if he's arguing on him and saying it's not, yes. So what's he going to do? What is he going to do with the pasuk? We have a pasuk that says that there is a relationship that is hated, but there's kedushin. You know where that would be? That would be the mitzri. It's not a lav; it's an asay. So I have a pasuk to apply it to. So says the Gemara, Bishle hanicha. If you're going to tell me, very good, that what? That Rabbi Sheva of Ilaf Fuki Miru Samay Kasi, he's only arguing on the Almanul Kohen Gadol fact, but he does have a way to go ahead and learn the pasuk of Kisiyena. It's speaking about a mitzri shapir. That's the shapir over here. El'i Taiba Dinavshe Ka'amar. If he's saying a general rule, not Keneged Rav Simoy, but across the board, any bia will be usher and create mamzeris, including mitzri, then what does he do with the pasuk of Kisiyena, with the sanua? Who is the sanua that there will be kedushin by? You don't have. Chayve lavim not, amana not, asay not. Where is the one that would say, 1 second, there is Havaya, even though she's a snua? Okay, I'm going to say it one more time. Okay, let's go. Follow the trail. Follow the trail. You want to know, where do you know Chayve Lavin is Kedushin's typhus? Let's learn from Yavama, it's not. It says, well, you can't, because I have a pasuk that says, Sanua Kisiyena. Guys, I'm making an abridged pasuk. Kisiyena Sanua. What does Sanua mean? In marriage. And nonetheless, it's Sanua in marriage, then Kisiyena. Good. So therefore, every Chayve Lavin, that's Sanua, there's Siyena, there's marriage. Fred the Gemara, what does Rabbi Akiva do with that pasuk? Because Rabbi Akiva says any chayve lavim, there's no kisiyena. Says Rabbi Simai, there is amanul kohen gadol, where it says chalalim. So we see amanul kohen gadol. That's guess what? Amanul kohen gadol is what is that's the case. Says the Gemara, that's very good according to Rabbi Simai. Very good, Rabbi Simai comes along Rabbi Yesheva, and he disagrees with Rabbi Simai. He disagrees with him. Now, there's two possibilities what he's disagreeing with. He's disagreeing him only by Almanul Kohen Gadol, or he's disagreeing in the whole concept. So, if he's disagreeing with Almanul Kohen Gadol, and only there is one place I can go ahead now and fit the pasuk in. Where is the kisiyena by the snua? By a mitzri, because it's not a lav. A mitzri is an asay. Don't marry a third, Mashma, you can't marry first or second. A lav abo mechalasei, a lav, a no that you infer from a yes, is what? Is an asay. So if a man marries a mitzri, right, you still, and Siyena, Hakadosh Baruch Hu is not happy with it. Okay, I got a pasuk. But if Rabbi Sheva is saying a carte blanche statement, he's not addressing Rabbi Simoi's Amanul Kohen Gadol. He's saying a total side opinion. Like Rabbi Akiva, there is no marriage whatsoever of a lav or an asay that the Kidushin is typhus. But we have a pasuk that says it is. Where's he going to apply that pasuk to? That's what we're holding. It says the Gemara one more time. If you tell me that Rabbi Shevav is arguing Rabbi Shmuel about Amanul Kohen Gadol, but he would say that what not say by a mitzri, the Kidushin would be typhus. Shapir. If he's saying across the board that any marriage that Hashem hates, that it would not be a good marriage, and even a mitzri, what's he going to do with the pasuk kisi? And guys, we're good. Are we good? A little bobblehead? We're good? Okay. Says Gemara, B'ba'ul Kohen Gadol. You want to hear this? A Kohen Gadol has to marry a Basula. He in Basula ba'am of Yikach. He has to marry a Basula. Yeah? He has to marry a Basula. So, can he marry a Ba'ula? No. Does it say he can't marry a Ba'ula? No. It says he has to marry a Basula. That asay would be the case of Kisi Yena. That's the moment Kedushin would be typhus. That if a Kohen Gadol marries a non-virgin, if a Kohen Gadol marries a woman who's not a virgin, not a basula, the Kidushin would be typhus. That's the case. Umayshna, why are you going to ask? What's it different than mitzri? Guys, look at me. You're telling me that he said a carte blanche din, that even an asay like a mitzri, Kidushin is not going to be typhus. So why is Kidushin typhus by a ba'ula? It's also an asay. Marry a basula. Why? What's the difference between the asayim that one is not going to work and one will work? You make such a chilik. Where can you make a distinction between the two? They're both an asay. Fred the Gemara, my shna. Why is it different than mitzri? Why? Right? Says the Gemara mishum the habile asay shen shava bakol. You know what the difference is? Mitzri is a command to all of Klal Yisrael. No one in Klal Yisrael is permitted to marry a mitzri, first or second. Everyone in Klal Yisrael, everyone is permitted to marry a ba'ula. Only the Kohen Gadol can. So you want to know why that's uniquely different, that I say, than mitzri? Mitzri, which is a universal din, of course, is not in the parashik. Takush is not typhus. Hashem came ba'ula, Kohen Gadol, which is unique to him. Okay, we'll cut you some slack, and the other Kedushin will be typhus. Okay, so right now we're holding serve. We have a source for Chayve Lavim. We have either two sources. One source we have from the Hekish by putting in Perikut Ches, putting it all in, and then we have another source by a Kal V'Chomer. We have a Kal V'Chomer from Yevama. Madach Yevama, which is a lav, Kedushin is not typhus. Certainly, Mises Bezdin, increases Mises Bezdin, Kedushin should be typhus. How are we doing, guys? Good. A lot of words, but it's very svardik. Okay, now Firabonon, the Adamukila b'chai be'lavim nukmi b'chai b'asei. Okay, now we got a good question. We had a question. Let's learn out from Yevama, just like Yevama is chai ve'lavim and Kedushin doesn't work. So too all chai ve'lavim Kedushin should work. Says the Gemara, I got a pasuk saying that it does work. What's the pasuk? Kisiyena snua. Why do you opt to say snua means Hashem's not happy with lav? Maybe it's speaking Hashem is not happy with asay, but lav kedushin would not be typhus. Your source that kedushin is typhus is kisiyena. There's a marriage to a snua. The assumption is that snua is the disdain for someone who's chayve lavin. Amanul Kohen Gadol. Why don't we say the disdain is for a mitzri? Then Kedushin's typhus. Because it's lava bo machala say is not say. But really a regular lav Kedushin won't be typhus. A great kasha, guys, a great kasha. Fred the Gemara. You're going to take the pasuk of Kisiyena and apply to Chayve Lavim, Nukme b'Chayve Yasei, and say by Yasei, meaning what? Alman L'Kohen Gadol Kedushin won't be Toifis. If I marry a Mitzri, Kedushin will be Toifis. Says Gemara, Hani Chai V'Asei B'Mayninu. Right? What does this Chai V'Asei? Let's go through the possibilities. Ishtei Mitzrayos. If the both Mitzrayos, the two women are Mitzrayos, Shteim the Snuas, they're both hated. Iachas Mitzvahs v'Iachas Yisraelis, Shteim Noshim, Shtei Noshim Me'acha Be'inan. You need them both from the same nation. In other words, a guy has two wives. If they're both mitzvahs, then they're both snuas. And one's got to be an ahuva, and one's got to be a snua. If one's from Yisrael and one's from mitzvahs, then it got to be from Amecha. They're not the same man. Ibul Kohen Gadol, right? Right? You need two snuas of me'amecha. The ibul Kohen Gadol, and if you're going to tell me it's the asay of bul Kohen Gadol, ki kasiv kisiyena l'kayin, right? Does it really say kisiyena l'kayin? It doesn't say it will be l'kayin. Outside, guys, outside. What's my question? Right now, we're learning out from siyena to snua that snua is a lav, and there is kedushin. If snua is an asay, there's no kedushin by chayv elaven. What's the possibility of an asay? Mitzri and bul Kohen Gadol. Good. It can't be Mitzri. It doesn't fit the formula. Why? If it's two Mitzri wives, then they're both snuos. No, there's no ahuva. If it's one Jew and one Mitzris, then it's not amechad. So let's get Mitzris out of the way. What's the other possibility it might be? Be'ula Kohen Gadol, meaning if a man marries, if a Kohen Gadol marries a be'ula, a non-besula, right, marries, then Kedushin is Taifis. But every other place not. 1 second. It doesn't say Kisiyena Koyin. It doesn't say to with a B to a Koyin. It says Kisiyena. So it's speaking about a regular Joe, a regular guy. So it can't be Bula Koyin Gadol. So what have we done? We've gone ahead and we've subtracted the possibility of the snua being an asay. It therefore must be a lav, and therefore it says Kisiyena. So I have a source by snua Kisiyena for Chayve Lavin. That Kedushin is Taifis. Fred the Gemara. For Rabbi Akiva, Bal Korchech, right? Rabbi Akiva. Now, Rabbi Akiva has a problem, right? Rabbi Akiva, he explains the pasuk that is speaking about Chayv Asay, right? Don't they have to be from the same nation? And if you're going to say that what Bulu Kohen Gadol, right? It doesn't say Kisen L'Kayin. Bal Korchech Shavri L'Kro Dahavidachik Umuchia Nafshe. Okay, let's see Rashi at that point. Al Korchech, you have to say that what? That he forced himself. The last Rashi on the page. Bal Korchech Shavri L'Kro Dahavidachik Umuchia Nafshe. Kivin the Golil Chakra be Yavama. L'Tavsi Ba Kedushin. Since the Torah reveals by Yavama, which is a lav, that Kedushin is not Taifis, Neilef Mina, learn from it, the Chayve Lavin less be Kedushin, that all Chayve Lavin doesn't have Kedushin. You have the pasuk Kisiyena. The Kisiyena al Kochach, L'Chayve Yasei Kamar. You're forced to say it's for Chayve Yasei. Ukigoyin, the Choda Mitzris, and one of them is a Mitzris. Uli Rabbi Shevov, and Rabbi Shevov, Be'ula L'Koyin Gadol. So you have to doichik to take it off what? That the fact that it doesn't say L'Koyin, and force it to say it's speaking either mitzvahs according to Rabbi Shevov, according to Rabbi Samoi, or according to Rabbi Shevov, it's speaking about Bula Kohen Gadol. Okay, that's the sugya of Chayve Krisis, guys. So it's interesting. The sugya, it's in Yavamis, it repeats itself in Masechta Kidushin. The next rule of the Mishnah was B'chol mi she'ein lo yalav, right? Anyone who doesn't have any Kedushin, for lo ala cheres, and not Kedushin on anybody else, avlad kemaisa. So this is the sugya of a man marrying a nachris, a guy, or a man marrying what? A shifcha. So how do you know that there's no Kedushin? How do you know if a man marries a guy? How do you know the child's a guy? We all know that, right? How do you know? This is the source. How do you know that if a man marries a guy, the child's a guy? How do you know if a man marries what? A shifcha, the child's a shifcha? Says the Gemara. Amakra. Amakra. Shavu lechem po'em echamar. Avram Avinu by the Akedah, he tells Eliezer and Yishmael who accompanying him, what do you see? So Yitzchak and him saw a beautiful cloud hovering over Haru Maria. And he asked them, what do you see? And they say, we see nothing. And they said, you stay here with the donkeys. And we say, right? So now, Ashkan loy tasiba Kidushin. So you can't be Mekadesh a Chamar. You can't marry a Chamar. It's Amid Beis. Vlad the Kemoisa Minalan. How do you know the Vlad is like her? So good. You know, if a man is Mekadesh a Shivcha, just like you can't be Mekadesh a Chamar, you can't be Mekadesh a Shivcha. But the bottom line is, you could biologically have children together. How do you know the child goes after her? It says, the pasuk says, "Va'isha v'ila deha tia ladoi necha." So it says in Parshas Mishpatim, why would a person want to stay an Eved Ivri? Why would he want to stay? What happens after 6 years? He goes free. Va'isha v'ila deha, and his wife, meaning his shivcha Kananis, will be what? And her children will be ladoneha. So who do you see the children go after? Not after him. After her, they stay. You know, you went ahead. But the Gemara says, right, that you work for your master day and night. How does a man work for his master day and night? During the day, physical labor, and at night he produces children for what? For more connecting, more not canadals, connecting. Okay, Benji and Chaim Leza, Amaratzim Kamurim, right? Connecting. You know what connecting on? Now you do. No slaves, right? Lenny, I'm telling you, you're a chassid in Yiddish compared to these two guys. I'm telling you, compared to these guys, zero. He has Google Translator, right? Okay, Geschmack. Okay, so guys, so let's go. We're trying to figure out two cases where there's no Kidushin at all, not to you and not to somebody else. The child goes after the mother. So by Shivcha, it's great. How do you know there's no Kidushin compared to a donkey? How do you know the child goes after the mother? It says, Isha v'yodeh tiyaladanah. Now, how do you know about a guy? So this is a very interesting limud. I'm going to I'm going to put it on the screen. I think I will do it outside first. Okay? It's a very intricate limud, guys. It's not so pashut. This is how you know that if a man marries a guy, that the child is a guy. It says the following. It says, you should destroy them, make a bris, you don't get married to them. Bitcha, your daughter, you should not give to his son. Ubitai, and his daughter, his daughter, you should not take to your son. So two things you shouldn't do. You shouldn't. Your daughter should marry him, and his daughter should marry you. Now, what does the next pasuk say? Ki yaser es bincha me'acharai, because he will turn away your son from after you. Who's Yasir? He, that's the guy. The guy will do what? He'll turn away your son, meaning it's considered your son because it came from a Jewish mother. It came from a Jewish mother. The guy married a Jew. The guy will, don't do it. You know why? Ki yasir, the guy will turn away your son. Now, why doesn't it say ki sasar es bincha me'acharai? She will turn away your son. Because if she's a guy, it's not your son. Dafka ki yasser es bincha, not ki sasser es bincha. The pasuk before says, ubitoi, his daughter, you shouldn't take for your son. His daughter, you shouldn't take for your son. And the pasuk only addresses when the guy took your daughter. And when the guy takes your daughter, then it's called bincha. Masha Enkain, if your son takes a gayata, then it doesn't say ki sasser es bincha. You know why? Because it's not bincha. Got it? It's not bincha. That's the source, guys. That's the source. This is the source. This is the source. Okay, so now, says the Gemara. Nachris minal amakra, the pasuk says, leisischatein bam. You shouldn't go ahead and marry them. Ashchin leitasi ba Kidushin. So there's no Kidushin. Vlad the kemaisa minalan. How do you know the Vlad is like her? Because he will turn away your son from following you. Bincha haba mi Yisraelis kari bincha. A bincha that comes from Yisraelis is called bincha. Vein bincha haba min ha'avedis kechavim kari bincha. But a ben that comes from ha'avedis kechavim, because it doesn't say kisasar, ela benah, it's hasan. Amra vina shmamina, ben bitcha haba min ha'avedis kechavim kari bincha. Right? Name k'sav ravina oivik kechavim be'eved abal bas Yisrael havlad mamza. Why do you say that? Why do you, let's say that, should we hear from this, that the Torah calls a ben bidcha that comes from Nachi bincha. So ben bidcha abba min avikachavim kari bincha. Name a ksava, let's say, Ravina avikachavim ve'erabah v'yisrael vlad mamza. So now, since it's not miyaches after avikachavim klau, only after the mother. So in other words, if your avikachavim comes with a Jewish mother, it's a Jew. And if that's the case, anyone who's born by Aveira, what's our rule of thumb, guys? What's our rule of thumb? Second din in the Mishnah. Anyone who's born from an Aveira, the child's a Mamza. So let's say the following. This guy lives with a Jewish woman, that's certainly an Aveira. So why is the child, according to that, it's called Bincha, it should be a Mamza. That's what the Gemara is asking. It should be a Mamza. It says, Nehid the Kasha lahave, even though he's not a Kasha, right, he's not Meyuchis, but nonetheless Mamza lahave. Psul Mikri, he's not a Mamza, he'll be what? He'll be called a puzzle. Well, let's do Rashi on this thing. The asal ashminan deleisha dinale basa evikichavim. You're telling me you don't go after the male father. The name of evikichavim who to say is a guy. Then this guy a mutalov ebikal and Ella. What do we say? But in other words, if you go after the father, then he can be megayer and marry into the cloud. But now you're telling me you go after the mother. The kiwan sheba avera noilad, since he was born by avera. Yisrael Pasal, Kishan Noldim, and Mishain love Kidushin. It should be no different than any other marriage where there's no Kidushin. Guys, if you marry your sister, there's no Kidushin, Charles and Mamza. Marry your aunt, there's no Kidushin, you Charles and Mamza. Marry a Goyata, there's no Kidushin, Charles should be a Mamza. That's the kasha. That's the kasha. It should fit in with that rule, right? Ditnam Masnisan, Shehem Mamzerim. Mishani mehacha like Tishma Mamzeris. You don't hear Mamzeris over here. Why? Nehidishamina mine de kasha lehave. Good, we know it's not a kasha. The mishadi lebasa Yisrael liyos noila beavera. Mamza mia like Tishma mina. Kitamina be yafamis. The mamza me ashes aviv yalfa. We learned that yesterday, guys. Right? Where's the mamza we learned that from? Ashes aviv. We learned it from your father's wife. What, guys? Outside. I want to do it outside because we did it inside yesterday. Like person should marry, right? Ashes Aviv lo yigala kanaf Aviv. Now, what is that speaking about? You should marry your stepmother. That's Pashit. What it means, the Gemara in Yevamis learns out, it means you should marry your aunt. What does it mean? It means that your uncle dies, and now your aunt is falling to your father. So it's Ashes Achi Aviv. It's the wife of your father's brother. That's his Yavama. That's a Shemeres Yavam. So when it says that you should marry Ashes Aviv, it means Shemeres Aviv. You should marry the Shemeres Aviv, the one that's falling even to your father. You should marry, and right afterwards it says, right, like you should take a mamza. So we learn out the juxtaposition of mamzeris after Shemeres Yavam. That's the source of mamzeris. So it's continuous Gemara now. Continue Rashi now. Ma Ashes Aviv dein le olav Kidushin aval yesh le Kidushin ala acheres v'ola Kidushin ba masad samachle la yavi mamza av kol shein le olav Kidushin aval yesh le Kidushin ala acheres la fuki oivit kechavim less le Kidushin klal. So very gishmak.
A little bit more.
Okay, very gishmak. Now, if the source of mamzeris is Shemeres Yavam, right? The Shemeres Yavam, can she marry someone else in Klal Yisrael? B'derech Klal? No problem. No problem. Good. No problem. When you can't marry, that's when there's mamzeris. So this Shemeres Yavam, as long as she's Shemeres Yavam, she can't marry. She can't marry. You can't marry your aunt. You can't marry her. Oh. Since you can't marry her, even though she can marry somebody else, right? By a guy, no one can marry her. Period. No one. So since no one can marry the guy, a Jewish woman, no one can marry this guy, it's not going to create mamzeris. In other words, since the paradigm of mamzeris is shemeres yavam, that's only because in other venues, right, she can't marry anybody else. I mean, she could marry somebody else eventually. Masha'enkein, a guy, no one can marry. In the middle of that child's not going to be a mamza. Psula will be. Kosher, it won't be. But mamzeris it won't be. So it doesn't fit the formula of mamzeris. It doesn't fit the formula of mamzeris. So one more time. Says the Gemara, Amra v'ina shmamina, from here, Ben Bitcha, the son of your daughter, Haba Meravid Kechavim, Kari Bincha, Name Ksav Ravina, Eved Kechavim, Eved Abal B'Yisrael of Vlad Mamza, since there's no Kidushin Ba'Aveira, right? And therefore there should be a Mamza. And for the Gemara, Nehi, the Kash Lehavi, Mamza Lehavi, Psul Nikri. Well, now why is this? Is because since no one can marry her, it's not similar to Eishes Avim, where someone can marry her. Says the Gemara, the following question. Now, you're telling me the pasuk of Ki Yasa Bincha, that's the source, right? He will take away your daughter, he will take away your son, because it's your son, right? That's speaking by the Zayinumis. So maybe only by the Zayinumis, but not by any other nation. Fred the Gemara Kasha, Ahu b'Shivas Goyim Ksiv, the pasuk of Yasa is speaking by Shivas Goyim, Shar Umas Minalon, other Umas Amakra, the pasuk says, Ki Yasser as Bincha, he will turn away. The rabbis call them Asirim, not just the Zayinumis, but anyone who go ahead and remove your child. Now, Hanich Reb Shimon the Darish time of the Kra. Now, Reb Shimon makes a lot of sense. I don't have to say the pasuk of Ki Yasir. It's self-understood. If a guy is going to marry your daughter, it's going to take away your son. So the Ki Yasir is extra to teach me not only the Zayinumis but any other. El Rabbanan, my time of the Rabbanan that need Yasser for itself, who don't darish time of the Kra, where do they know anyone else besides the Zalunumas also that you should marry? Amakra says it says by after you go through the whole protocol, after that, then you can be boiled her, right? Guys, is speaking by Melchemes Rishos. It's not speaking about what? Melchemes Mitzvah, which is the Zainus Melchemes Mitzvah. And it says, after you go through the whole protocol, then what it says, the Acha Kain Tavo Yaleu Ba'alta, then she'll be your wife. We can infer before, then she wasn't your wife. Why? It's because you see, Kidushin Mat is not Typhus. So now Baruch Hashem, we have a pasuk of LaYasir, it's Zayinumis, now we have a pasuk telling me it's Lav Dafka the Zayinumis, it's even what? It's even not the Zayinumis. Ashkan L'Tasav Kedushin, Vlad the Kemoisa, right? How do you know that about the Vlad goes after her? How do you know it doesn't go after the Jew? Right? Minalon. Amakra ki siyena leish. It says ahuva v'hasnua. Right? There'll be to a man ahuva v'hasnua, and v'yoldaloi, and it says v'yoldaloi, and loy the miyachas to him. Kol heichad the karinam bei ki siyena. Anytime you say ki siyena, karinam ba v'yoldaloi. Okay, so in other words, it has to be kisiyena. When there's kedushin, the old Eloi, she gives birth to him, so it's miyachas after him. But it's not kedushin, like what there's not kedushin. So good, it's not called your. But how do you know it goes after her? Right, because there's no kedushin, and therefore it goes after her. Yihachi Fred Gemara Shivcha Nami. The Shivcha also, right. After you're learning from Amadam el-Chamar that Kedushin is not typhus by a Shivcha, so why do you need a pasuk of Isha v'yoder neha? Guys, look at me. What? 2 more minutes, 5 more minutes. When there's no Kedushin, right, Shal goes after her. When there is Kedushin, child goes after him. That's how I know. Kiyasa bincha, the child will what? The Kedushin is not typhus. Yes? I'll be with you in a few minutes, okay? I'm still saying share. Okay, guys, you're telling me now a chiddush. You want to know how you're saying that Kedushin is not typhus, But how do you know the child does not go after him, goes after her? It says Kisiyen el Ish, Kisiyen Lashon Kedushin, and it says V'yol Deloy, and she gives birth to him. So where there's Kidushin, there is goes to after him. Where there's Kidushin, not Kidushin, it doesn't go after him. By Shivcha, how do you know there's no Kidushin? Amadam Lechamar. How do you know the child goes after the mother? Isha v'yodeh tiyelad neha. Fred the Gemara, why do I need the pasuk of Isha v'yodeh tiyelad neha? Once I know that the Kedushin is not typhus, I know the child doesn't go after him. Once I know there's no Kedushin, because they're compared to a Chamar, why do I need the pasuk of Isha v'yodeh to tell me that the child goes after her? Automatically I know that. They can't go after him. The fact that if you're telling me that this rule of thumb, where there's no Kedushin, the child does not go after him, Shifchanami, right? Shifchanami, you should need the pasuk of Isha v'yadeha tiyelad neha. And for the Gemara Nachinami, you're right. You're right. You're right. Once I know there's no Kedushin, Amadam al-Chamar, I know automatically the child does not go after him. So why do I need the pasuk of Isha v'yadeha? L'chiditanya. Amid Aleph. A guy says to his pregnant Shifcha, Hariat bas chayrin, you are free. Ulvadacha eved, but your vlad that you're pregnant with should be an eved. So I'm freeing you, but when you give birth to the child, you're giving birth to an eved. That's it. Devar of kayamim is devar of kayamim. His words are kayamim. In other words, Rabbi havlad kamaisa, and the child will be free. Havlad kamaisa, just like she's a bas chayrin, he's a ben chayrin. Says the chachamim, no. Says the chachamim, in fact, that she's free and the child is still a slave. Mishum shnemer, because it says Ha'isha v'yiladah tiyelad necha. My Talmudah, in other words, in the words of the chachamim, that says that words kayamim, right? Where do you see Isha v'yiladah tiyelad necha? What does one have to do with the other? So Maraba adivrei v'esei lili. The words of the pasuk of that is going on. Right, that the blood is like her. Isha v'ladeha, the Isha v'ladeha, meaning they're going to be the same. Tiyela neha. So the pasuk, you want to know what it teaches me? It teaches me the din Rabbi Yisrael Glili. If you free your eved, the avadim will also be free. Okay, wish everyone a great Shabbos. Let's say a kapitel tehillim, guys. Say a kapitel tehillim. Hey, again, what we say. Bismillah Yasaf. Elohim al damilach al techrash v'tishkarel. Ki hinei v'chayemoyin v'senach l'nasirosh. Al amcha yarimu sod v'yisyatsu al tzfunecha. Amaru l'chu ben achidim yigoy v'lo yizach Hashem Yisraelod. Hina watz lev yachtav alecha b'sichreisu. Ahalei adam yishmelim ayav hagrem. Kivol v'amayin v'amalek peleshes m'yashvei tzar. Gam hashon milvayimam hoyis v'yalav v'layt selah. Asay lehem ki midyon kisesach yav v'menach al kishon. Nishmedu v'ein dar hoyidem el adama. Shisemai nidivemai karei v'chazei v'chazeva chuchas samun al kon l'sichemai. Asher amaru nishalanu es nice elihim. Elohai shisem chakagal kakash l'fnei ruach. Ke'esh tivayoch labat lahet harim. Kain tidifem b'sarechu b'sufasachas b'haleim. Malay f'nehem koloim v'vakshu shemcha Adonai. Yivoshu v'yibolu ad yad yachbru v'yavedu. V'yedu ki ato shemcha Adonai b'decha al kol haaretz. Acheinu kol beis Yisrael hanesunim v'tzaru v'ashivya ha'omdim bein bayom u'bein bayabasha ha'makoyim rachem aliyem yitzim yitzara l'racha u'me'afelu liyara u'mishiba ligula. Hashta bagazam kriv and Neymar Ramein. Tell you an unbelievable story I just heard. My Unbelievable story. There was a family that lives in Ramat Eshkol who rented an apartment from a person who lives in Ofakim. The people in Ofakim, what they did was they bought this apartment in Ramat Eshkol. To make money, they rented it out, and they went down south to Ofakim, which is a much cheaper place to live. This person has been learning in Kollel for many years. I think 2 years into the marriage, so they always invited these people from Ofakim to makarev them to come to them for Shabbos. Constantly invited them to come for Shabbos. They never came, except 1 week. They came for Simchas Torah this year. Both people, on one side of the people that came, they were killed. The other side, they were taken captive. And these people were there. And they were looking for what schus did they have that these people taka went that Shabbos. And it turns out, I don't know if these people, they're not religious. That after a year or two, they wanted to raise the rent in Ramat Eshkol. And they said, listen, well, if you raise the rent, we can't live here. My husband learns the whole day, and we're going to have to leave. And they decided, you know what, the guy's learning, let it be. And that was like 10 years ago. If anyone who knows, Ramat Eshkol is from the highest communities, and when it skyrocketed, it was just it was the border of Jordan, and it skyrocketed. It's a very expensive neighborhood. These people could have gotten their rent, they could have doubled their rent, and they never did. And they held in that schus that they didn't double the rent. That's why the Messiah would be there that Shabbos. Be safe. Amazing. Anyway, everyone should have a great Shabbos. Enjoy Arizona. Take it all in. Eretz Yisrael, Tizkal Mitzvah. We're all proud of you, Kenny.
Shabbos, everyone. Shabbos.